Hi, welcome to Game of Thrones off-season. We're going to talk a little bit about weddings, a lot about death, because we're going to talk about the best deaths of Game of Thrones. Thanks for joining us.
You're tuning into the destination for TV superfan discussion, AfterBuzz TV. And now, let the buzz begin.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. I need this like every month. I just need to...
I don't have a ringtone, but I need one.
I know.
It's only once a month that
Yeah,
I
that's
hear
a
this
good
song.
way.
It's
And
not like
now
I
that
play it on the radio or anything.
It's off season, so every time someone calls you, it's like, oh, I'm getting a call from... It's like you're getting a raven.
A little bit of dread, though. I mean, you can't hear this music without feeling like something bad's about to happen.
Yeah, and you would hate to like be attending a wedding and then having that go off and have like the Reigns of Castamere start to play or something. Welcome to Game of Thrones off season, everybody. We're here to talk about some news, but we're also going to talk about the 7 best deaths of Game of Thrones. Now, when we see best, what we mean is, you know...
What do we mean by that?
Yeah, this is... I feel like we should define this, because I'm not saying, hey, I'm happy these deaths happened. I think for the most part, these are deaths that we're actually hate that they happened. Or
the most tragic deaths.
Yeah, or we feel a little bit of relief when they happen. I think it's the most emotionally important deaths.
Okay, so the most, maybe, you know...
Story-wise.
Story-driven deaths that... The most relevant to the universe.
They either deserve to happen, or you feel like, oh no, what is this story?
There's been hundreds of deaths, but I'm surprised that you whittled it down to 7.
Yeah, it's not 10 because we don't have time, and it's not 5 because I couldn't whittle it down all the way to 5. So I went with 7. I went with the 7. You know,
it's a good number. 7 to heaven.
Yeah, it's a good holy number.
There you go.
You know,
the seven septs.
Yeah, 7 is very important in Game of Thrones too. So
what was it? The Book of the 7.
Yeah, the Book of the 7.
The Book of the 7.
So there you go.
Right.
But first, we have a little bit of news for you. I don't know if we have the cue up. News. There we go.
All right, cool. I guess I'll start us off.
Yeah, go
with the big headline of the month is Kit Harrington, who plays Jon Snow, and Rose Leslie, who played Ygritte, got married in real life.
It looks like he knows something. He knows how to get married.
Jon Snow knows. And look at him getting rained with snow.
Yeah.
Snow looking confetti. How great is that? But isn't it just the best story ever? I mean, these two were they were star-crossed lovers in the show, and then they fall in love, offset, and now they're actually got married in Scotland.
It's especially because their characters are people that are they're never going to, love each other. They're on opposite sides. She dies. He dies. They both die.
Right.
And yet, in real life, they can actually be together. And I love how normal of a wedding photo that is. You know? It's just
it almost looks like, you'd put that in a generic
cousin's wedding.
It looks like a catalog photo of like...
I know. It's not very glamorous. It just looks very normal. And I love that.
And they look happy. And they should be. I mean, they got married in a castle. They got married in Ward Hill Castle.
Yeah.
Which is actually owned by Rose Leslie's family. They've owned the castle for over 700 years. I think it was built in the year 1100. Rose Leslie is actually Scottish royalty.
Yeah.
Her father is the chieftain, the Aberdeenshire, Aberdeenshire chieftain of Clan Leslie.
Oh, nice.
That's his title. And her mother was actually from Clan Fraser. And I think I'm saying it right. I hope.
Yeah, that's right.
Clan Fraser.
Now it's getting wrong. That one's getting terrible.
But so her family owns castles. They're getting married in them.
Right.
I mean, she's the closest thing to an actual Game of Thrones character.
Get married up.
Out of all the actors on the show.
And she's the one that plays the wildling.
She's the closest thing to royalty, and she's playing a wildling.
Yeah, that's great. I also love. We don't have a picture of this, but they're on their way to their wedding vehicle, which was just a Jeep.
Yeah,
it was a Jeep.
Yeah.
So they're getting married in this castle, surrounded by movie and TV stars.
Yeah,
and then they just drive off in a Jeep.
Yeah, they had a lot of the cast members there. They had Peter Dinklage,
every single cast
and Emilia
member.
Clarke, and Maise Williams, and it was. But you know what? Out of all the weddings that Game of Thrones have had, This one had no deaths.
No one died.
No one died at this wedding.
So that's pretty good.
We'll call it the
The
A-OK wedding.
It was the A-OK, the normal wedding. It's the normal wedding.
That's right.
Nothing happened. Just a beige wedding. If we're going for a color,
yeah,
it's not red, it's not purple, it's just beige.
A nice
regular
off-white wedding.
Perfect. It's a perfect. Also,
so congrats to you guys.
Also, in news we're starting to see on all these Game of Thrones actors start to think about what their life's going to be like after Game of Thrones, because basically, I think they've stopped filming. I think they're all wrapped.
Is production stopped on this?
I think. I'm not. I could be very wrong with that. But Maise Williams has a new play that's happening in London at the Hampstead Theatre in London for Lauren Gunderson's play. And this Lauren Gunderson's actually an American playwright. And this is the first time she's actually going to be in London for the play I and You, which, though grammatically incorrect, it's supposed to be a very good play. And it's about she's waiting for an organ transplant, and she befriends this boy, and I think they start to have a relationship because of it.
And then let me guess. He donates the organs to her after a tragic
I haven't seen the play.
I don't know. I'm just saying.
Who knows?
It sounds
like the obvious way, right? It feels like it should be.
But maybe it's not the obvious. It's not a you and I situation. It's an I and you situation.
It feels like if it's a play, then maybe he's gonna get in a car crash, and then she gets the organs.
How do you do that on a stage? You know.
Oh, you're done.
Bunch of red ribbons.
That's enough. That's all you need.
That is really cool, though, that Maise Williams is branching out to do that stuff. I mean,
yeah.
I did theater when I was younger, and there's really nothing like a live performance as opposed to film. It's really cool. It's really fulfilling, and you see a lot of actors who kind of get later in the stage of their career where they don't need the money, right? But they still want to find the fulfillment of why acting was so much of a
and that's
fulfilling.
It's some hardcore like acting when you have to like do 90 minutes on your own. I should know. I'm in a Hollywood Fringe play that just got an encore.
That's
we're
right.
going up again July 9th. So
plug.
If you're in Hollywood, come by and see me in a play. It's a big reason why I have this massive beard.
I'm actually down. So you tell me the details.
Cool. All right.
I'll be there.
I'll let you know.
But
and
cool.
also, we have another little thing. Do you have the image that we have? It looks like it's on a library. If you could put that up. This image, it might look familiar. And if you could tell me how it looks. Nope, not that one. There we go. That's enough. This is, if you see the little like lantern in it, it looks like this is straight from the Citadel.
Right.
This lantern.
And the opening credits.
And also the opening credits, how they do it. But when you saw the Citadel and you saw these lanterns in it, you're like, oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
That they brought that into it. But this is actually on another HBO show. This is actually from Westworld. So this was in last episode of Westworld. It was the season finale. I won't tell you what context you see this in.
Yes, please don't.
Because that's a big spoiler. But it is there, and it's a nice little Easter egg for Game of Thrones.
That's so. And did you spot that yourself? Did you?
No, that's Reddit. That's a Reddit thing. Okay. It's a Reddit thing, but I don't want to take it. But it is pretty cool. I was very happy when I heard about it.
That is
I was
neat.
too at that point I was like, what is going on in this show? That's that type of show.
Who do you think made that call? You know, the HBO. They're just like, you know what?
I think
let's
they were just
make
like,
an HBO universe.
Let's make a tribute to like to the other show.
The other show that's given this show a budget.
Yeah. Speaking of other shows, let me first say that here at the network, we produce after shows for nearly all your favorite TV shows, from dramas, reality, TV, sci-fi, and more. There is no network that works harder to serve television fans. But now we need your help. We're asking that you please subscribe to one or more of our YouTube channels. Besides helping us a ton, here's what it does for you. It caters specific content you already directly like, and it brings your favorite after shows so you don't have to seek them out, and it suggests content from other channels or podcasts that might interest you. If you subscribe to our YouTube channels, it will also help you discover shows that you're sure to love. If you subscribe already to this YouTube channel, which is for just sci-fi, superheroes, and fantasy, you can also subscribe to Westworld, which I'm in the first couple of episodes of for After Show, not the actual Westworld, but also Preacher, which I also host. So if you like me a lot, just subscribe to that channel and you'll see me a bunch. And if you're worried about those pesky notifications, don't be. They're optional. We won't just force that on you. And it's easy. Just hit that subscribe button now. And for an even easier AfterBuzz experience, we'll let you know. Talk to us in the comments. All that stuff. Thank you for still listening to us. We have to plug that stuff. So that's great.
Yeah, no, it's cool. Just subscribe. Give us a thumbs up.
Give us a thumbs up.
Yeah.
Give us some love.
That's all we're asking for.
That's all we needed. Now, let's talk some death.
Yes.
Let's get down into it.
Yes.
Top.
Oh, man. So last month we talked, and
I wasn't here
weren't there
last
because
month.
you're doing your play, right?
Yeah, but that's
Last month we talked sex.
that was the sexy stuff. I missed the sexy episode.
And that's like one, if you were gonna cut a big pie of the mass appeal of a show like this.
Yeah.
One slice would be the sex, and another giant slice is the death for sure.
The sex and the death.
Yeah, there's other slices in there. I guess like
yeah.
CGI would be one. And
Just monsters and fantasy and swords. Those are also there.
We've done stuff like that.
So yeah.
Let's do it.
Death. Let's talk about death. So we're going to talk about the top 7 deaths. I'm going to start with my number 7. First I want to say, with this list, this was tough. And I think the order a lot of people will debate. And also what I chose, I think a lot of people will debate. But my number 7, just squeezing into this list, is Joffrey.
Yes.
Because I feel like that purple wedding was such an important death.
Oh my God.
For a lot of people.
And that was the season 3 finale, right? Where that's when he died.
Right.
And left us hanging. And when they opened on season 4, they opened on his stone cold face.
There's just no one. We forget this now. We forget a lot of like how we felt before this death, but did we want to see Joffrey die?
He has to die, right? You're thinking he's got to get his comeuppance somehow.
Yeah, and he's got to get a death that's like really brutal, and we really wanted to see him suffer in some way.
Yeah.
And boy, did he suffer.
And not only did he suffer, but he suffered in front of everybody.
Yeah.
Just out there on the world stage at his own wedding.
Just choking.
Was it his wedding or
dying.
it was his wedding party?
No, it was his. Yeah, it was his wedding. It was the purple wedding. No, it was the wedding of.
No, it was his wedding, but it wasn't the. It was like the pre-wedding reception or something. There's like a pre-wedding party.
We're gonna get.
I know,
letters.
right? If we're wrong,
we're gonna get some letters.
You comment on that YouTube channel. You let us know all the ways we're wrong. But that was a fantastic death.
Right.
You pulled me off the couch. Yes. Yeah. Got it.
Got so purple. Oh, the blood. The image of it is pretty brutal. But we have just his like death face there.
At first, I don't mean to cut you off. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
At first, you're like, yes. Oh, he's gonna die. But as the death scene played out, it was one of those things where you're like, you almost felt bad because it's just all this cruelty is stripped away, and he's just a helpless child at that point, choking in his mother's arms. And it filled you with the controversial left and right tug that Game of Thrones does so well.
Right.
Of like, well, gee, I'm not sure how I feel about this character or this moment because something I thought I really wanted. Now that it's being handed to me, I'm not sure.
Right. Like, it's also weird. We there's also a lot of mystery involved with it because we didn't know who killed him or really. So many people had the motivation, and we saw the effects that it had on the show. That's like. It made Tyrion a suspect. Everyone thought Tyrion was. He put him in jail. He had to escape because everyone thought he killed Joffrey.
Yeah, changed the whole timeline.
Yeah.
Sansa got out of there because, as we found out.
Right.
And it was my favorite character's doing because, the puppeteer of Game of Thrones.
Oh, God, Littlefinger.
Mr.
That stupid Littlefinger.
Mr. Peter Baelish. He orchestrated it, but he also did it with... Lady Olenna.
Yeah.
Who finally confessed.
The real killer of it. And she was the one that was like, tell her it was me. That, by the way, was a death I almost put on here, but I didn't quite because I don't think, technically, we don't see her die.
You don't see her die.
So it was a good, death, but it wasn't strong enough to kind of put on the list.
Throughout your list, I will be throwing out some honorable mentions.
Yes, please.
But for Lady Olenna, I could have sworn she was going to get thrown off that balcony because when they open up right after the sacking of Highgarden, they open up on this balcony that she's in, and and they hold on it for just a second and a half more than you would think they would for an
it's
establishing
also Jamie.
shot.
So Jamie has a habit of throwing people out of windows.
That's right. Push.
Yeah.
That's right. So I could have sworn that was going to happen. It didn't, and she dies peacefully from poison, whatever that she drank. But
I also love how she dies peacefully after, and right as soon as she knows she's going to die, and was like, "By the way, I killed your son."
Yeah.
Jamie, because she knows it's Jamie's son. Killed your son. Bye. Thank you for giving me a peaceful death. I'm gonna enjoy this.
The ultimate mic drop.
Yeah, this is gonna be great.
Speaking of balcony deaths, I gotta say that one and I'll be mentioning the ones that are not on the list. But Tommen Baratheon.
Yeah.
That was shocking.
Yeah. Also because it was so sudden, and it was how he stood up and just went to the window and just walked off.
And just after the sept was blown.
Right.
With all those deaths.
We'll get
to that.
That's not even included in the list.
It's not on the list?
It's not in the list.
Oh my God. See,
there's a lot of deaths, but the deaths that we're looking at is like singular deaths.
Specific. But
the one, and actually, I think, you know what kind of knocks that off the list is Marjorie is like, gets killed in that. And I feel like that's not the death she deserved.
No.
And it kind of bugged me. Because she was like lumped in with everyone.
Oh man!
And I feel like she deserved her own. If she was gonna die, she deserved her own
At least
death. She had earned it.
Face melting or something.
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad the sparrow there. I'm glad he died.
Yeah.
And in that moment, because he was around all of his followers, and then it was a good way for him to go, but it wasn't a good way for her to go.
It bothered me in so many ways, Dave Child. When I saw that sept blow up, and everyone, we were there together.
Yeah.
I was filled with such conflicting, almost like every other death in this series, because
it's cool, but
it was like, yes. Oh. But wait a second, what have I just been watching this past 2 months of all this plot development, these building up all these different stories with the High Sparrow and these trials that are happening and everything, and you're wondering where it's all leading. And then Cersei just wipes it out. It must have been fun to write that, but it honestly left me feeling like incomplete.
Is that right? Do we really have 8 minutes left?
No way.
Okay, well, let's go through this list real quick.
Moving right along.
Okay, all right. We only have 8 minutes left. I guess because we started pretty late. So let's go through the list real quick.
Let's do it.
Okay, so the next one is Oberyn Martell.
Mind blowing.
Yeah, we mentioned him before, so we can kind of quickly go through him. But he's the thumbs and the fight. That was also the first time we're like, ooh, a new character we really like. We really want to root for this guy.
Yeah.
And then boom.
And the only guy who could take out the mountain.
Yeah.
And you're like, this is the ultimate warrior. He's better than Jamie. He's better than the mountain.
Right.
There's no one better
He's
on
like
the
a sexy
planet.
dude. It's like a nice to have this like.
Yeah, you think you're gold and you're lions and you're gold lions.
Yeah, it's like a smug guy. We wanted him to win, and then when he doesn't, it's crazy.
It's crazy.
Okay, and this is, I think, actually the only group death I have on here is the Red Wedding. So
gotta mention the Red Wedding.
If you go to the Red Wedding, because that's where Kat gets it. That's where Rob gets it. That's where like
everyone.
Rob's baby. I mean, it's like it's man. Everyone.
And you're watching that. I remember the first time I saw that episode. Yeah. My roommate at the time had already seen it, and so I was watching the wedding go down, and I look over and he's watching me. He's looking at me, and I'm like, "What are you watching?"
Oh, because he already saw it. He's like,
he wanted to see my reaction.
Where it's like, I know what's coming.
He knew something was coming, so I kind of felt like it. But even knowing that something is going to happen, I could have never guessed that the entire Stark family would have been brutally murdered in that way.
Right.
And the way they end it with Catelyn Stark's throat getting cut, and she's screaming, this like morbid, just this death call.
You have the Reigns of Castamere playing.
And then it ends
by,
with...
I think, Sigur Rós. I think Sigur Rós was playing that.
Really?
Yeah, I think they were the guest on that. It was before Ed Sheeran. There were Sigur Rós.
I know, that's
making
cool.
an appearance,
that's cool.
Yeah.
Fact. But then they ended the episode with just silence, radio silence, just to let it linger. It was one of those moments in TV history where it becomes a reaction meme, where everyone's like filming other people watching it.
Yeah,
and it becomes like
that's the
entertaining
moments
to
I
watch
was going for. I was
it.
trying to go for the moments that made you stand up or fall down.
Sure,
like the moments that are big. Okay, so after the Red Wedding, we have your favorite guy, Your favorite. I wanted to put this on this just to bug you.
It does bug me.
But this was a good death. Littlefinger's death. Because for me, I know you weren't because you're weird and you love him. But for me, I really wanted him to go. I really was like ready for him to get his comeuppance.
You know,
and I didn't think it would happen, to be honest. I thought he was maybe going to be one of the people that survived this entire thing because he's like a cockroach.
Yeah. I could have seen him somehow evading his comeuppance and just living peacefully on his own part of the world. But part of me knew he was gonna kind of end somehow. I mean, he's a chess master, but eventually the game's got to end for him.
Yeah, eventually the king has to get knocked over.
I wish he would have died on his feet.
Right. Well, he did die on his feet.
I thought he was on his knees because he was like begging for.
He begged.
And then he got his throat cut, and I was just like,
yeah, that's right.
Littlefinger deserved better. All right.
And I also love it because, well, it was his last attempt. He's always going to be someone who's trying to trick his way through it. So if he can't do it, the whole time we thought he was doing a good job of getting in between Sansa and Arya, enough to the point that I was starting to get pissed at the show because I'm like, no, don't have Sansa go against Arya. I don't want to see that.
Right.
And that's what you're doing, and that's what you're building up, and I know that's where you're going. So when they don't do it, I'm like, yeah. Oh, and they get rid of Littlefinger. Oh.
That was his biggest mistake, was to try to put the girls against each other.
Yeah.
That's where it's the beginning of the end.
He went in between the family, and that's like the Starks especially have too much of a bond.
Yeah, you can get in between the Lannisters, no problem.
Yeah.
In fact, they expect you to. They almost,
and
they're more comfortable with
other families, I think you could say, like the Greyjoys, but the Starks, no. Okay, so after that, we got, of course, Jon Snow, just because it was such an important story beat, and it was another moment where...
It doesn't even really count, but okay.
It does. It does. He died.
He did die. Okay, you're right.
Back, yeah.
And that was... And
I'm talking about the death itself.
Yeah, that was pretty impactful.
Yeah.
Because that was...
Eventually, he might end up on this list twice,
right?
Or maybe a couple times.
You never know.
But like right now, I think his death was another death that people filmed, like reactions to. They wanted to see. It was a big moment where a guy you're cheering for, and we're so used to everyone getting killed and going and just like not coming back that we don't expect him to come back.
Except his death was so just out there,
right?
That people refused to accept it. It's the only death that people were like, nah. He'll be back somehow. He'll come back from the dead somehow.
Yeah. It's him and like Tyrion. No one's gonna accept them.
Yeah, they'll be like, I mean, he's dead, but like, is he really?
He's the ice. He's the ice on the ice and
the
fire.
Story about how Kit Harington got out of a traffic ticket,
right? Because he told him. He's like the one person he told him.
If I tell you if Jon Snow comes back from the dead, will you let me go?
Yeah.
He comes back.
He comes back. Okay. And I also love how there was a watch on his facial hair and hair at the time. They were just like, everyone's like, he hasn't cut his hair.
And then when he
still
did,
has a beard.
After he did cut it, they're like, oh, he's officially dead.
He's dead. He's gone. It grows back. He's fine.
Real quick, I thought it was interesting how Jon Snow became such an iconic hero of this show.
Yeah.
Because in the beginning, no one could have guessed. You're thinking maybe Robb Stark or even...
He was like the sexy one, but no one took him seriously.
Yeah, he's kind of just the bastard.
Yeah.
You thought he might be like a warrior or something, but he ended up somehow through all the seasons, he became the fan favorite, the hero of the story. I don't know exactly how his timeline is in the books, but
in the books he hasn't even come back from the dead yet.
Oh, he still hasn't.
That's where he is in the book. Is like we all know he's coming back from the dead.
Yeah.
Because of the books, it's just it's not a big surprise, but we were all kind of like, he hasn't come back from the dead. He hasn't been revealed to be a Targaryen yet. None of that stuff has happened yet, and it's the show is so far ahead of the books.
So the people who are reading the books aren't reading for those milestones that people are watching them for.
It's going to be interesting reading the books after we've seen the entire show, because we're not going to read the books until the entire show. And I think actually my conspiracy theory is he's actually waiting until the show's over to release
I like books. That theory.
I think that's it. That's what I like to believe. I hope. Right. Okay, number 2. We're almost there. We're going to go a little over, but we're almost there.
You know what? We only do this show once a month.
Yeah, it's fine. Okay, so number 2 is a big one for me. It was Hodor's death.
Hold the door.
This was like This is one of the times where I was watching Game of Thrones. I actually cried, like, watching it. Because it was...
I cry all the time.
I know. I mean, I cry at, like, commercials, but usually I don't cry at Game of Thrones. I don't know why. Like, it's kind of a fun show, and when it's brutal, it's like,
what do you cry at? You're like desensitized at this point.
Yeah, but this Hodor was sad. And also just the fact that his death was... He was sacrificing himself for Bran.
Yeah.
And that his death was always kind of predestined because of Bran's weird time travel and stuff.
Yeah. It was an unexpectedly emotional moment.
Yeah.
Because you're thinking, Hodor, you know, I mean, there's so many people who have died.
Yeah.
But here's the simpleton, you know. Any other season, if he was killed earlier on, it wouldn't have meant anything. But yeah, the fact that it was self-sacrifice, the fact that he wasn't all Hodored until he was warged into from childhood.
Yeah, the fact that we saw him as a kid,
so it was like a double sacrifice.
Yeah, he was already destined to do this, and his entire Hodor-ness was because of this. Yeah, and it wasn't just something that was in him, and that's brutal.
And it is another one of. I think it's a good choice on the list. It's another one of those things that has become like a meme in life.
Yeah.
Now, I mean, people are putting Hodor on doorstops.
I know, yeah, the Hodor doorstops. That actor, he's never gonna live the fact that people are gonna ask him to hold the door wherever he is. Oh man. Okay. But the number one death, the final death, and that's just because it was the biggest one. The first big one is Ned Stark.
Yeah.
Because that's.
Yep. I agree.
That set the tone for the entire show, because when Ned Stark dies, that was the time where you're like, I don't know what the show's all about. Like anyone could die in the show.
Right. There's two big moments of the first season. It was the first episode when Bran gets pushed out a window, and you're like, oh, it's that type of show.
Right.
And then it was
thrown out a window.
Kid gets pushed out a window after witnessing incest. Yeah. Oh, it's that kind of show.
Oh wow, this is a show. This isn't just about dragons.
Yeah. Episode 1, it had that moment, and then the second defining moment I think of Game of Thrones was the last episode when Ned Stark gets beheaded.
Yes,
because you're like, oh, it's that kind of show.
Yeah, because you're like, that's our hero. Yeah, we're so used to this being our hero. It's a guy we're used to seeing in movies. Granted, dying in movies, he's always dies and stuff. Yeah, but still, we're not expecting him
live through Game of Thrones.
One does not just be Sean Bean and live. But it was so that was the first and kind of the biggest death, and then we've just been experiencing death from here on out. Yeah, so while we're at it, who do you think's going to survive this last season?
Oh man, you know,
who's not going to survive? I think we might.
You know,
we're going to see some big hitters leave.
I think Tyrion will live.
I hope Tyrion will live until maybe he might die in the very last episode.
He might, because he's done some pretty, you know. I wanted to honorably mention his father, Tywin. Yeah. These are people, so Tywin Lannister, I didn't see him going out like that. I didn't see him really going out.
Right.
I didn't see, also honorable mention, Viserys Targaryen, the very first season. I thought that was a pretty awesome death. Where you guys head covered in gold. From Khal Drogo.
That's a great death.
It's a great death, right?
That is an awesome death. Like, that's just a cool ass death.
It's a cool. Then his head hits the ground. Dink.
Yeah.
You know, that was a good one. Sir Meryn Trant when Arya.
Who's that again?
When Arya, he's the one who beheaded, or it was on. He was on Arya's list. He was the you know, the leader of the Gold Cloaks.
Right.
The Kingsguard.
Yeah.
Right. And then he went on to a special mission in Bravos where he was like getting little girls.
It happened at the brothel.
Yeah. Oh, that was a good one because he got stabbed in both eyes, and then he's just a slow it's one of those deaths that they drew out, and you're just like, oh my god, she's doing really it, but good. Like you're almost like he deserves it, but like come on, just end it. And that's where I was like, Arya's a little.
Oh yeah, and then maybe
she enjoys it.
It was the first time we're like, I don't know about Arya. She's becoming an anti-hero in a lot of ways.
A little bit.
Yeah. I mean, there are too many deaths to talk about. There's so many deaths in the show, and that's one of the reasons why we love the show. But we'll continue talking about them. And if you had a problem, where can they reach you, Ryan?
You guys can find me at Ryan Malaty everywhere: Instagram, Twitter, and actually, I'll be I'm actually. I can't talk about it.
You can't talk about it.
I'll talk about it next month.
Okay,
Tune in
cool.
next month for some
the
other
secret.
stuff. Yeah.
Ooh, there's something secret. So anyone, if you catch him in a parking ticket, he'll tell you his secret.
That's
but
right.
only if you catch him in a parking ticket.
That's right.
And you can find me at MrDaveChild on Twitter and Instagram and DaveChild.com. Catch my show if you're in town. Called Best Friend, and also look at my new Liquid Feet dances. I'm doing a new dance for Jurassic Park, and that's online right now.
Liquid Feet Jurassic Park.
Yeah, if you want to see me dance in short shorts,
click.
if you want to see me dance in shorts, look for Liquid Feet, and it'll be one of the first things that come up.
Okay.
All right, thanks everyone.
Like and subscribe.
Like and subscribe.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Keven Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.